In this video, I want to show a graphical tool which is very convenient to use on Mac and Windows. Unfortunately, it does not have a Linux client yet, but on Mac and Windows, it's very useful. Okay, so I'm going to use this example repository, my merge example, and the tool we're going to use is called SourceTree. So you can download this from Atlassian, which is a company that supports Git and Mercurial repositories online. They're a competitor to GitHub, for example. And I'm going to create a new repository. If you already have cloned the repository using the command line, you can say add existing local repository. But currently on this machine, I removed the one that was there before, so I'm going to say clone from URL. So I'm going to paste in the URL I get from GitLab and let it do its thing, hit clone. And now you can see that we have this listed in my list of repositories. SourceTree could have a very, very long list here for working on many projects. And the interface to the repository is very much what you see on GitLab. So you have the tree history of the commits, you have the differences of the most recent commit, and you can see that you can work on things in a very nice way, where, for instance, I can click on the file to edit it in whatever editor is my favorite, and run your editor, and now you can hit, instead of doing a git commit on the command line, it says you have uncommitted changes, let's commit them. It asks for the, I already have that set. It asks for the commit message, and we'll commit successful, and we will push to the master. Basically, the defaults just simply work. It's really quite nice. And now you can see in the history, it's got this new commit. This should match exactly what happens on GitLab if I look over there. So if I look at the GitLab history, since it's been pushed, let's look at the graph, and there's that most recent commit. All right. So this is a really nice interface, and it lets me do things like hit a button for merging, and it's got its own differencer built in. So if I want to see the difference between two different commits here, I could say select two different commits and start examining their differences in detail. So that's really all there is to it. It basically automates and graphicalizes the things you do in the command line: commit, pulling, pushing, fetching. And notice also that it has a button for stash, branch, and merge, which is often what you want to do to resolve conflicts between different users. So that, in a nutshell, is SourceTree. You should explore its options at length. There's one thing I should add, though, and this is very important on Mac. So on Mac, of course, it's going to use your SSH keys from your system SSH install. And so the reason this works is because I can do I can SSH successfully to GitLab because my SSH keys are configured correctly. But there's an option in my SSH config that must be there on a Mac, and that is add keys to agent yes and use keychain yes. These must be set in your SSH config file, and when you log into your computer for the first time and unlock it, instead of just doing SSH add, you have to do SSH add -k, and this adds your key to the sort of Mac desktop key database, and that allows SourceTree to find it. So if you forget those options in SSH, SourceTree won't be able to talk to your remote repositories. But if you do, those two simple options to SSH will allow SourceTree to work. So SourceTree really, lets you navigate navigate the change sets of your repository quickly and locally without working with the web interface. So this is what my workstation currently thinks the status of the repository is locally, and then I can compare that to the remote version here. All right, so it's very useful overall.